So today we're going to chat about all the things people have been lied to about money.
And I just think that, school doesn't teach enough, and people don't actually seek out anything about money. Somehow, some way, they think just turning it over to other people is the key.
Well, because they think those people are smarter than they are. And that, I think, is why.
Yeah, but if they really got it and they really understood that most of the financial services sector, wealth management, is salespeople.
Right.
Most of the insurance industry is salespeople. You start to look at the financial products that are sitting out there, the retirement plans and all that stuff. Most of it is salespeople making commissions. And I'm not saying that some of these people don't know a little bit, because they do, and they're trained, and there's people pitching the products and their companies and all this stuff. So I get it. But a lot, if there's a sales component on trying to get people's money, then you have to question it. It's like how, like, when you go into like a Best Buy or a Staples or a Target or whatever, like in Target, you the people aren't making commissions if you're buying a flat screen TV, right? They're leaving you alone.
Yeah.
Okay. If you go into another store and they get commission, it's a very different experience.
Right.
Okay. So it's the same thing with financial products. The whole industry is geared toward, I would call, Main Street, to try to make commissions. And that's okay. It's not, it just is what it is, but you just need to understand it. You need to understand that they may or may not be putting you in the best thing. It's basically the product of the moment with potentially the highest commission for them.
Well, I told you, I used to work with a guy named Gary at the bank, and he was the financial planner of the bank in Ohio. And he straight up told me that he puts people in what he gets the best commission.
Yeah.
Like, we were having, because I said, Gary, how do you know what to put people in? Because I didn't have, he goes, I just put people in where I get the best commission.
And that, by the way, that's common. It's car dealerships are that way, like, whether you're buying electronics, and even in your business, in the real estate, single family home commission, same thing, right?
Yep.
Like, if I'm this is what people don't understand. Like, even in the position I'm in, the last thing I'm going to do is clip the listing broker from a commission that they could make. Because if I go, let's say, from 3%, which is normal, to 2.5% or 3%, or 2% or 1%, or even 1%, they're going to spend less time on it. They're going to, what I mean? Or even on the sales side. So as everybody's like, I gladly pay brokers commissions, and I don't negotiate them, because I'm like, listen, I want you to work hard for me, right? Especially on the buying side. So, as people make money on other people through selling products and services, they just need to know that the financial motivation is always going to be like what you just said.
Well, and that's why you always have to be discerning, whether you're working with a real estate agent or you're investing with a brokerage or whatever it is that, you have to always decide what's in your best interest. You can't rely on somebody making commission. And I do have to laugh because, my stepson Kyle, he's 27 years old. His friends are in financial services. They're selling some of these products, right? And I have to laugh because it's like, they don't even have any money to invest yet, So what do they know,
they're
right?
Commission sales.
And they're just commission, and what they're just commission salespeople that are very good at selling things.
Well, that's what they teach them. And by the way, I have zero issue with a young person trying to figure out how to sell something better.
No.
Right? You have to sell yourself in this life specifically. You have to sell yourself to get a job. You have to sell yourself, to get in a relationship. You got to sell yourself all over the place. So those skills are great. But in this particular case, my son, his friends, they're not in control at all of what they're selling.
Yeah,
they're given a menu. And they're saying, you sell this, you sell life insurance, you sell these retirement products, you sell whatever you sell.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're just trying to, pay their rent and get on, meet their sales quota.
Not blame them.
And then there's always honest brokers in the game too. Like, there's always honest real estate agents that are going to talk you into the right thing. There's always honest money managers that really put their clients and diversify them. But I would say as a majority, they're out for their commission. So you just have to understand that.
But I actually now, as you know, I have some extremely good friends in this business. And I had a long chat with Jeff yesterday, right? That guy is as honest as can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's built a business based on putting people in the right products. Now, there is a space for insurance products and estate planning and trusts and all that stuff. And there's a massive strategy around all of this. But you do have to understand that there's a menu, especially with these young kids. They don't know. They're looking at their commissions just like you guys would, right? It's not a flawed system.
But it's not just young kids. I mean, Gary at the bank was probably a rough 45. He could have been 50, but I mean,
he probably had a rough
you,
to get up to 45 and selling products like that at a bank. I could only imagine what his prior 20 years worth.
But you have to really assess the person that you are working with, like their knowledge. Like one of the questions I would ask somebody if I was going to invest money with them is like, who do you follow on YouTube? What are you reading? If they just look at you with a blank stare, then it's probably not great.
Well, it's funny. Like as you guys all figure out ways to, like I would call legally put money into tax products, tax efficient products, whatever it is. And so I had a fair amount of money sitting at Wells Fargo. I still do actually. It's somewhere, I guess, three or 400 grand sitting in a Wells Fargo account. It's been there for so long. And it's just over the years, just slowly put stuff away as you do. As my CPA says, put your money into these kinds of things because, it's going to reduce your taxable income. So I've done that. So I just kept it all in either gold or silver ETFs, even though I'm not a huge ETF guy, like, you know what I mean? But, it was a product that I could buy, GLD or SLV. So I did. And they would call it once a year, of course, just like they always do, like clockwork. Oh, this is a guy on the list. Called me and they're like, I think you should be investing in, this and that and this and that. And I'd be like, okay, why? And then they melt down. You know what I mean? They don't know why. I go, okay, it's, XYZ mutual fund or XYZ opportunity fund or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I get it. So what companies are in that? Like, why would you, and so again, I'm just scratching the surface and I'm not trying to dupe this person at all. I'm actually interested. Why? Well, there's just not really even answers. Like they don't know. Like, and then these financial products a lot of times are so complex. They lump everything, they basically kitchen sink it, right? They dump everything in there. And there is a case for diversification. But at the end of the day, guys, what pays people? The actual asset itself that produces. That's it, right? So all those things have to produce in order for somebody to get some money at the end of the day. And so over all those years, I've grown to anticipate and expect that phone call. I love it because it's always a new person with the same title and the same script. Mm-hmm. And so for years, I just kind of kept it there as like a toy. I just like, okay, this could be an interesting conversation. And every year, because they make money when something sells, when there's something transacts, when something moves, when, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, I'm playing the long game, as you guys know. Even though I hate being in an ETF, as you guys know, I love physical gold and I love physical silver, and I have a bunch of it. But I figured this, I do believe that with the dollar being a fiat currency and it being everyone being able to print, that more currency, the dollar will continue to devalue over time, and hard assets like gold and silver will continue to rise. And by the way, that's just me. Maybe it's oil, maybe it's water, maybe it's timber, maybe it's dirt, ground. I don't know. What the point is it's not a mutual fund with heavy fees and loads, right? And so I think that, but again, it took me a long time. And for those of you who might be, nodding your head or just scratching your head, perhaps, when I got out of college, this guy out of Seattle came banging on my door. I just got this job. I was really happy. I had, I don't know, $3-4 grand in the bank. And he comes and meets, right? It's a wealth management guy. I gave him $2 grand, which was half of what I had saved up to that point. And, and then every year he'd bang away, try to get more and more and more and more. But I was trying to save up for real estate at the time. And I just kept it kind of the same. Well, 10 years later, it was like $2,000 or something. Like it just was flat. And of course, I was not a big client by any stretch of the means, but that is kind of the point. There's a tremendous amount of fees between where the money's made and me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people in the middle, like a whole bunch of middle people. And that is just the way it is. And I think people just need to realize that, if you don't realize that you are the pawn in this game, you are the one making the money and you are the target. You are the target for the insurance industry. You are the target for the retirement industry. You are the target for the realtor industry. You're the target for everything. When you're making money at a job, you're the target. You're the target for the credit card companies. You're the target for the student loan business. I'll call it a business. You are the consumer. They want your money.
I have a something I do before I was a realtor, something I would do when I'm finding a realtor, and you could use this in a lot of different ways, but when I know something's a bad investment, I would run it by them and I would see what did they say, right? Like I know this is a bad investment, but I'd say, oh, I'm interested in this, cash flow. What do you think? And if they said, this is great, yeah, let's do it, or let's go check it out, or, then I know that they're just full of it and they're just trying to make a quick sale. But if they go, they're never going to tell you no, but, you might want to look around a little more, we can look at it, but let's look at some other stuff. Then I know they have my best interest. And I think you could do that in other things too. If you knew a bad investment and you ran it by your money manager and kind of just get a feel for what they're saying, right?
Yeah, but I will tell you, by the way, I do love that strategy. But let's just take a look at what just happened in the last few years, right? As you know, I stopped buying. A lot of people didn't. They kept buying. And so who got pissed off? Everyone. They're like, my whole investor list. Not my whole investor list, but a lot of them. They're like, well, I'm going to go buy with this person, right? I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. So like right now, we just did a live earlier about the crash bros. It's crashing. It's crashing. It's crashing. It's crashing. That gets a lot of clicks and grows people's channels. And so we talked about that today where we don't really believe that real estate's crashing. But guess what? We got a lot of negative comments today on our live.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, well, like one guy's like, how can we have a supply shortage when we have a housing affordability issue? And I'm like, it's the same thing. When you have a shortage, you actually have a affordability problem. That's what a definition of a shortage is. So the point is people draw an opinion based on their own individual bias, and that doesn't change. You really need to approach this from a 30,000 foot view, from a point to where we might have some kind of insight here, instead of you're wrong, because a lot of people do that. And so you have a bias, and there was a time where I had to unlearn and then relearn. And this is a time where you should consider unlearning things that you heard in school, things that you heard from your parents, whatever it might be that created the software in your brain, that these things that we're talking about are facts. They are not opinions. This is actually happening. And so, you have to look at it from that standpoint, like, okay, instead of just saying that's not true, maybe you should dig a little deeper into this topic and fact check us, because so I would just encourage you all to take a look at